Welcome to the ZimmCast, a program dedicated to bringing you what's new in agricultural marketing. The ZimmCast is the official podcast of AgWired and hosted by Chuck and Cindy Zimmerman.
Hello and welcome to the ZimmCast. I'm Chuck Zimmerman. In this episode, I'm going to share some interviews with last week's CattleCon 2025 and the Crop Insurance and Reinsurance Bureau Annual Meeting, or CIRB as we call it. I was in San Antonio while Cindy was in Bonita Springs, Florida. This is definitely the busy time. So let's get started with CattleCon. I talked with Colin Woodall, he's CEO of NCBA, who says they were going to break 8,500 attending, which is a great number. Additionally, he talks about the top issues the organization is working on. At CattleCon 2025, I have with me Colin Woodall. And first of all, Colin, tell me a little bit about how the conference is going here in San Antonio.
Things are going great here at CattleCon in San Antonio. The weather is just absolutely fantastic. And thanks to the cattle markets and the new administration, everybody's in a really good mood. And we're probably going to break 8,500 people attending CattleCon this year, and that makes us really excited.
That's fantastic. What are some of the things that are really on the top of mind for members?
Yeah, top of mind really is an effort with the Trump administration to be able to roll back rules and regulations. President Trump showed us quite clearly in his first 4 years that he understands agriculture, is interested in agriculture, and more importantly wants to help agriculture. And so we believe now in his second 4 years we will have the same opportunities to evaluate the regulatory burden that is on cattle producers and work with him and his officials to roll that back. Because we know when we focus on producer profitability, one of the biggest things is the money that is spent on compliance for rules and regulations. And if we can lessen that burden, then that makes things even better for cattle producers.
Mm-hmm. How about when it comes to work that you do, like from a promotional standpoint? I think you have mentioned one about a Little League, which I thought was kind of fascinating.
One of the things that we really like here at NCBA is the multiple roles that we play. And, of course, a lot of people are aware of the role that we play in Washington, D.C. on policy advocacy. But one of the things that we do is we're a contractor to the National Beef Checkoff. Now, NCBA is not the checkoff. That's the Cattlemen's Beef Board. But we go to them every year, and we ask for them to fund projects that we would like to do with those checkoff dollars. And probably the best known is Beef It's What's for Dinner. An iconic American campaign, and it's iconic because of the industry it serves, the product we promote, and the fact that it is produced and sponsored and paid for with producer dollars. And this year, we took Beef It's What's for Dinner to Little League. And last summer, and coming up here in summer of 2025, we were sponsors of Little League. We sponsored what's called the Perfect Home Plate, which allowed us to get in front of a whole new generation of beef eaters and their families and talk about the nutrient-rich value of beef and what it does to help them be better players, and how you can also use it just to simply have fun. And to be able to be at the Little League World Series in Williamsport, Pennsylvania was a great opportunity to make sure that beef was front and center.
So when you get to the end of CattleCon this year, does everybody get a break for a couple weeks, or do they have to go right back to work?
We're going right back to work on Monday morning. There is a lot to do. When you think about the policy side, the president only has 4 years, so we know that there is a limit. So we've got to get back quickly with his new administration. You know, they are confirming new secretaries and undersecretaries every day, so the team's being put together. We can't waste any time. And then also, promotion knows no rest. And as we look towards the spring sporting events, Super Bowl coming up, we want to make sure that people understand that beef needs to be on the plate, and it needs to be on the plate not on special occasions, but on every weekday meal as well.
What else would you like folks, whether it's members, especially ones that can't be here, about the work that you're doing here, and and what is this setting up for? Because we know we have another meeting coming, big meeting in the summer.
You know, the biggest thing is if you missed CattleCon, start planning now for either the summer business meeting, but especially for CattleCon 2026, where we're going to be in Nashville, because this really is where the work of the industry is done. There's the old adage, if you don't show up, if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu. And so people here are at the table and they're making the decisions of where we want to go on the policy side, where we want to go with checkoff programs. And so that's the biggest selling point. On top of all the fun that we have, the biggest selling point is coming and being a part of the process. You don't get a chance to throw rocks if you don't show up when the offer's been made for you to show up. So I encourage everybody to get engaged because we have so much to look forward to. The markets are going to be good for quite some time. We're going to have this opportunity to roll back the regulatory burden, and we know that in 2024, that was the second highest year of beef demand in over 37 years, and we're going to continue to build on that, and a lot of that is attributed to the great work that the checkoff does, and especially the Beef It's What's for Dinner campaign.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Colin, for visiting with me here. We are at CattleCon 2025. I'm Chuck Zimmerman. Next, I have Kevin Good, Vice President, Industry Relations with CattleFax. Kevin gave a full presentation on the stage during the CattleFax session. Afterwards, I interviewed him to hear his outlook for cattle and beef and what factors are impacting them. At CattleCon 2025, I'm visiting with Kevin Good with CattleFax. And first of all, Kevin, what do you do for CattleFax?
I'm the Vice President of Industry Relations and Analysis.
Well, this morning you were on stage. This is an annual part of the conference here, which we get some great information. In your case, what were some of the highlights that you brought out there for our members?
Yeah. As we went through our program this morning, I think a highlight to me is transitioning away from strictly a supply-driven market to more of a demand-driven market. And that's what we've really done over the last decade or so. Beef demand is exceptional. It's as stout as anything we've seen in 40 years, and it's really driving the bus in here. So we need to recognize that. Leverage is also key. With more dollars at the retail level, the cattle producer is getting a higher percentage of that as supply gets tighter. And supply, you can look at it two ways. Head count-wise, obviously we're tighter. Harvest levels we're down 1.5 million on cows from our peak 2 years ago, 1 million less on fed, and with more shackle space coming online, with two new packing plants coming online this year, that leverage component will continue to favor the cattle feeder. At the same time, you look at total supply, tonnage, and, last year's a good example. We harvested about the same amount of fed cattle last year, but 1 million less cows. Despite that, carcass weights were up 26 pounds, so that offset. So in reality, in 24, we produced as much beef with 1 million less cattle going through the system as we did in 23. So when we talk about tighter supplies, we really have to distinguish between tonnage, which, frankly, our consumers needing because of record strong demand, and head count, which is driving leverage, which means more of those dollars from record high retail prices come back to the cow-calf producer.
Was it a surprise that demand went as high as it is?
Good question, and absolutely. We're very encouraged. If we would just go back in the rearview mirror 12 months ago, we were nervous about demand. At the same time, this market has climbed the wall of worry. And if you just look at it, it's not only domestic supplies, production, even in 24 versus 23, but also we imported a lot more product because we had record high 90 trim prices and tight supplies. So in reality, per capita supplies in 24 were close to a pound higher than they were in 23. So despite as big a supply on a per capita basis as we've seen in 15 years, we've had record values for beef in all classes of cattle.
Did you have any suggestions, ideas of what cattlemen should be thinking about as they are looking what's going to happen the rest of this year?
Yeah, absolutely. As we just think of from a broad brush, we're already setting at record high values. We had them in last year. We're pushing higher through the winter at a seasonal time that you typically don't. You've pushed far enough that, over the last 10 days, we've had some hedging opportunities. We just need to recognize we still live in a very volatile world. And one of our presentators today talked about managing money in the futures market, record high, live cattle and feeder cattle both. Started to flush this week. We're already $10 off our peak looking at the the April live cattle, and we're down hard today on some avian influenza type news. So it's volatile. You can just go back the last year and a half, 18 months, and we've had 3 hard breaks. Even though we're trending higher from a cycle standpoint, we still think the highs are in front of us over the next couple of years. There will be some volatility. There'll be some $10, $15, $20 breaks along the way, and we very well could be in the front of experience one today.
How about imports and the effect that it's having, has having, and we are kind of looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. And a real big point that we made is when we look at that cow slaughter down 1 million head last year, 1.5 million over 2 years. It'll be down 500,000 the next 2 years. It's driving 90 trim to record high values, cull cow values record high. 90 trim is stout enough that over the last 12 months we've been able to grind a lot of the chuck and the round for trims, and that supports a whole carcass cutout, makes the lows much higher. And so because of that, you can bring Australian product in particular about 50 to 60 cents a pound cheaper on an annual average last year than our domestic. So we'll continue. The market's demanding more trim, and we're not going to produce it. So we'll continue to bring more product in again in 25 and probably again in 26 from both Australia and probably as well from South America.
Well, before we close, anything else you'd like members or folks to know that we didn't touch on?
No, I think the key point is it's a very optimistic time in our industry. I mean, if we think about it, we've got a heck of a product. Demand is near, if not record high. We're getting along so much better than pork or poultry. We've got a better product. We can't lose sight of that. And also just need to recognize in here that, yes, we will rebuild. The cycle is still intact, but there's enough headwinds out here. Mother Nature is a big part of that. We talked about the age of producer. We talked about labor availability and cost, the cost and availability of credit today with what it takes to enter our business, alternative land use. So there is a number of things out there that continue to be a headwind, which would suggest that it's going to take longer to expand. And in theory, because of that, prices should remain better longer as we go over the next 3 or 4 years.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Kevin. Great to see you here at CattleCon 2025. I'm Chuck Zimmerman. Now I'm turning to CIRB. Cindy interviewed Tara Smith, Deputy Executive Vice President of CIRB. Tara talks about the need for educating new people working in the new administration and Congress about the importance of crop insurance.
Here at the CIRB Annual Meeting, I'm speaking with Tara Smith. And Tara, what do you do for CIRB?
I do their government affairs work for CIRB and have for about 12 years now.
Well, we are in an interesting time right now as far as Washington is concerned. So what are the focuses that CIRB is going to have here with the new administration and the new Congress?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are hoping to get a farm bill again this year, but I think we're also in a very different environment than we've been in the past, and we're seeing a lot of potential for folks to attack the program, a lot of venues for them to attack the program. So we're very much prepared to play defense to protect and preserve the program moving forward, whether we see, attacks through the reconciliation process or through the Department of Government Efficiency, wherever those threats may come from, we're ready to go.
How critical is the Farm Bill for crop insurance?
I mean, we're permanently funded. We're a permanent mandate. And so, the program will continue plugging along. However, I think we saw in some of the draft bills, particularly on the House side from G.T. Thompson, that was really good and made some really positive changes for crop insurance. And so while we can continue without a farm bill, I think that the industry is looking forward to an opportunity to make some really positive changes for the industry and for farmers.
We had a really big turnout this year here at this annual meeting. It seems like there's quite a bit of interest in what is going to happen in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think folks are probably more in tune to what's going on in D.C. now more than ever, just because it's coming at us fast and furious. And so a lot of folks want to know what's going on and what to expect. And sometimes we have answers and sometimes we don't.
Right now it's kind of up in the air. But the Emerging Leaders Program, what role are they going to play here, especially this year when they go to Capitol Hill in April?
Oh my gosh, we're so excited to have them at the meeting in April because we've got to get the word out. We've got a lot of new members of Congress that we need to educate. We've got new members of the House and Senate Ag Committee that we need to do education with. We got to tell our story, and the only way to do that is boots on the ground and having folks that live and breathe this stuff every day talking about why it matters in these different districts and to these members and their constituents.
Is there anything else that you're really watching besides the Farm Bill?
Yeah, I mean, this whole reconciliation process can take a lot of different directions. And so, we're just watching it to see what direction it could go and if other farm programs, other than obviously nutrition, sort of get pulled into that process along the way.
Here at the CIRB Annual Meeting in Bonita Springs, I'm Cindy Zimmerman.
Finally, I have Cindy's interview with Lindsay Rinkenberger. She's the CIRB chairman, Country Financial. Lindsay started CIRB participating in the Emerging Leaders Program. She talks about how CIRB works with the Crop Insurance Coalition in Washington, D.C.
Here at the CIRB Annual Meeting, I'm with Lindsay. And Lindsay, would you introduce yourself for me, please?
Sure. I'm Lindsay Rinkenberger. I work at Country Financial, and I am the current chairwoman of the Crop Insurance and Reinsurance Bureau.
Well, we're here at the 61st Annual Meeting in Bonita Springs, and looks like we had a really good turnout here.
Yeah, the room is packed, so it's great to see so many people here and energized and enthused to talk about crop insurance this week.
And tell me a little bit about the schedule you have.
So we have a great lineup. Today we kicked it off with Michael Swanson, Dr. Michael Swanson from Wells Fargo. We also had Mr. Kurt Henke to just talk a little bit about the legal landscape of the industry. We also have folks here from the Risk Management Agency just to talk about some of the happenings in D.C. And so it's really just a great roundup. Everyone here is rallying around the program, excited, enthused, and just optimistic about what's to come.
Well, speaking about what's going on in D.C., how important would you say this meeting is right now?
This meeting is very important just with the current political landscape, the changing of the guards, if you will, multiple agencies across the government, of course, with the Risk Management Agency being one of them. And so it is a great time for all of us to gather here at the annual meeting, both for CIRB and then following this will be the National Crop Insurance Services annual meeting. Because of what's going on, definitely important for us to continue to be sure that our voices are heard. And, most important, the messaging is protect and preserve the program, the crop insurance program as it exists today.
And that's really the whole goal of CIRB, and that's what you all help with. But one arm of CIRB that's become very helpful in making the case is your Emerging Leaders Program, and it keeps growing.
That's right. I think the stat given today was we've graduated about 80 emerging leaders throughout the course of the last several years. And a good problem to have, but we did have to start limiting the number of participants because we had such a great turnout. And so it is great to have a group of about 20 folks every year, additional folks who are, advocating on behalf of crop insurance, and great to see all of them here today. It's a great opportunity for them to network with other crop insurance leaders, learn more, and how their voices can be heard across Washington and the countryside.
Yeah, because to have a lobbyist is one thing, but to have the people who are really in the trenches talking to the lawmakers, that's what really counts.
That is correct. And in times like we're in today, we need more boots on the ground, like this group of 20, as you mentioned, in addition to all of the industry folks that we have here today. And so more support is better, more voices certainly, and it's just great to see so many people that are, passionate about crop insurance in the way that the majority of us are.
How would you overall describe the mood of the crop insurance industry right now?
I think the mood is, I think we're all optimistic. I think that's what we have to be, right, at this point in time. And most of us have been around for a long time, and we know how this works. And so it's, again, steady Eddie, remain optimistic, continue to advocate where we can, and just hope that, eventually we're going to get to see a farm bill pass across the finish line. Certainly that's most important to us and our industry, but we have to remain optimistic for our farm clients and the growers.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Lindsay. Here at the CIRB Annual Meeting in Bonita Springs, I'm Cindy Zimmerman.
So there you have it. Next week, Cindy will be heading to Nashville for the 30th National Ethanol Conference, which will be our 20th year with the Renewable Fuels Association. As a bonus, she gets to see our middle daughter and youngest grandchild. March has us at Commodity Classic in Denver and 2 trips to D.C. for the AgriPulse Ag and Food Policy Summit and National Ag Day. And then for the American Coalition for Ethanol D.C. fly-in. So we hope to see you down the agriblogging and farm podcasting highway. And that's the ZimmCast for this week. I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the ZimmCast, the official podcast of AgWired. Check us out at www.agwired.com to find out what's new in agricultural marketing.